Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you around the world. Welcome to the daily Trade the Chain crypto update, where we give you everything you need to know for the next 24 hours and hopefully the next few days. Today is Wednesday, May 3rd, and it is the much anticipated FOMC day at 2 p.m. Eastern, or we will get the interest rate hike from the Fed. Everybody is expecting a 25 basis point hike. And then at 2:30 Eastern, we will get Jerome Powell's press conference, in which he will give us his indication as to whether or not they are dovish or hawkish in relation to market outlook. And of course, talked about this all throughout the week. The key things you want to listen for are pleased or displeased with economic progress and or inflation, as well as the likelihood of future interest rate hikes. So are they expecting further rate hikes? Are they expecting no more rate hikes? Are they data dependent on the rate hikes? So we'll be listening for a lot of that language. But of course, starting with the DXY, if Jerome Powell is hawkish, then I would expect the dollar to rise and equities to fall, or risk assets, equities and crypto to fall. If Jerome Powell is dovish, then I would expect DXY to drop, and then risk assets would obviously rise. So, no clear read here, but I have a feeling we're going to see some crazy volatility. I would expect, some candles like this. Doesn't mean they'll be bullish, but I would expect, some steep volatility for an event like this. So, looking at equities, a lot of lines in the chart, and if you read the daily research update, we did give a primer, and that is because of we're expecting a lot of volatility from the FOMC meeting today. So, I wanted to give a wide breadth of predictions based on where price could go. So if you can get above 41.30, then you attack 41.45, get rejected at 41.45, back to the low end of this little range here, which is around 41.15, 41.11. If you can break above 41.45, you've obviously got room up to 40.70, possibly 41.80. And then subsequently, or I mean, not subsequently, but inversely on the other side of the coin, is if you lose 41.11, probably drop down to about 40.90, somewhere around there. Lose that 40.90 level, then you're probably going to drop down to the 40.60 level. And I can zoom out a little bit just to give you guys a bit larger view in case crazier price action happens. But basically, resistance is 41.45, support is 41.11. Break above, this is your first target, 41.70, then you can start maybe talking about 4,200. And then obviously if you break below 41.11, then your first target would be about that 40.90 number. And then of course, back to the recent lows from late April. And then of course, if that breaks, then we're talking about obviously down here to 40.10 and possibly lower, but I'm not entirely certain that, happens immediately today. That could be, price action we see tomorrow. But of course, it all really depends on what Jerome Powell says. And we're just picking out, the levels in which we would like to trade if given. So no clear read yet, but, you've got your obvious ranges and levels. And so depending on how we react, you should be able to tackle these, tackle a few trades with relative ease now that you know what to look for. So moving to Bitcoin, very similarly to equities, wanted to cover a wide berth of volatility. So for this morning, get above the VWAP, which is about 28.4. You can start attacking, 28.6 all the way up to 28.8. Get above 28.8, start attacking 29.3, possibly as high as 30K with these equal highs right here, so do something like that. And then maybe, maybe a sell-off, or obviously, or not obviously, but maybe, acceptance higher. And then on the inverse, we are underneath the weekly VWAP now. We've been rejected off of it since the start of the US session. If, we've already been we already kind of tagged that 28K level. We got down to 28.1. But if we get another rejection, I would expect 28K. Lose 28K, your first stop would probably be right here, which would probably be 27.6. So not an immediate drop, but, could happen. I would say if it loses 28, you're likely going to end up tagging 27.2, in my opinion, but you could see a little pause right here just due to that low. And then just to zoom out to give you a better picture like we did for equities, if you lose, 27.2 down to 26.6, lose 26.6, you're probably going to head down to that 24.8, 25K number. And then, in the miraculous miraculous chance that we get above 30.5, then, you want to see a bounce on 30.5, but you need to break above, obviously, the 30.9 level or 31K, 30.9 level, because that is the recent high. So if you get above 30.5, 30, if you get above 30.5 and confirm, you may see a little bit of a pause or, sell off at 31K because of that equal high. So very much something to consider, but the levels are very clear. We've got equal highs at 30K, then we've got further equal highs at 31K. We've got equal lows sitting at 27.6. We also have more equal lows sitting at 27.2 as well as 26.6. So the price action, depending on where direction is headed, is the direction will obviously be given to us by Jerome Powell's speech, but the levels are obviously on the chart here. So looking at ETH, very similar, but the range isn't too wide. So moral of the story today is get above 1860, start attacking 1880, get above 1880, start attacking 1900, possibly as high as these equal highs at 1945. Get above 1945, start attacking the 1980 level, and then of course get above 1980, start attacking 20.30, and then just to zoom out for the doom and gloom, break below 1845, which has been a key level dating back to last week. Lose 1845, drop down to these equal lows right around here, around 1810, potentially as low as 1800, considering this wick right here. And then, of course, lose that level, and you're pretty much just going to, drop like a rock down to that 1710, potentially as low as 1700 level for that wick. So that is, these are the levels for, the main assets. Of course, we don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, in terms of what the Fed will do. Even the 25 basis point is still, iffy. It's highly likely that 25 basis point happens based on all of the rhetoric, but we just don't know. You never know until the announcement happens. So most people are probably banking on that 25 basis point hike, but nobody, I'm sure there's somebody, but nobody, most 99.99% of people do not know what the Fed's guidance is going to be and what Jerome Powell is going to say in his speech. So because of that, we have to react as we're given the news, which is why we always recommend not, overextending yourself on, FOMC day, because it's, going to be very volatile. It's going to be very wishy-washy. And of course, none of the trades are going to be immediately obvious because the market's going to be digesting his entire speech and reacting in kind. And then, when the speech is over, we'll see momentum cement itself. So my recommendation is to just be patient. I got a lot of squiggles on these charts, but it should be quite obvious to you where support and resistance is. And of course, all the trading happens, all good trades, I would say, happen around support and resistance. You're either flipping resistance into support, or resistance is, acting as resistance and rejecting back down to the low end of the range. So we know how things will react, and we know exactly where things will react at what price action. It just depends on the directionality and the momentum from the Federal Reserve. So I actually would not doubt to see a lot of these targets hit both ways. I mean, we could pop up all the way to 29.3, 30K, and then drop all the way down to 26.6. I mean, it's FOMC day. Anything is really possible. So that's why I always recommend be careful, protect your capital, pay close attention, mark out your levels on the chart, and pick out where you would like to enter trades, provided they were given. I'll probably be waiting until the press conference. I probably won't trade 2 to 2:30, but I'll probably start looking for trades after Jerome Powell starts speaking. My bias has been short, but he could definitely be surprised with dovish indication, meaning they're relatively pleased. They've got, they're solving the banking crisis. Inflation progress has been good. If we get some of that, we may see the market rise, but there's no single thing that I think I can point out that he might say that's going to really push the market in one direction or the other. There's a cornucopia. There's a mixed bag of things that we're looking for, obviously related to inflation, related to unemployment, related to future rate hikes, related to the banking crisis. So there's many topics to discuss and to digest. So we'll obviously update the Trade the Chain community with what we're seeing. What's the core information that we're receiving? What's our opinion on the information? What's the directionality? What's our thoughts on directionality, I should say. So all of that will be covered in the TTC community today, as it always is during major data point days. But if you're not in the TTC community, I have to say you are, missing out on all that juicy alpha information. So we'll be communicating that to our members. And we will obviously catch up with everybody tomorrow for talking about what momentum looks like, what directionality looks like headed in the weekend, and unpacking some of the key stuff from FOMC day today. So good luck, happy trading, and speak to everybody tomorrow.